Alrighty, guys. Hello. I am sorry for the delay. StreamYards does not get along with me, and it took me a while to figure out the audio to be able to hear each other and make sure that we could actually have this conversation to begin with. So I appreciate everybody for being patient with me. Today, I am joined with Dena, and we are coming from two different perspectives when it comes to substance use and recovery in the communities around those. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about myself, then I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself, and then we can start this conversation. I do want to thank Katie Joy for allowing this conversation to happen by a very ignorant tweet that she decided to put out. I do want to kind of start the conversation around this tweet and from both of our perspectives, kind of why this tweet is harmful. If you do not follow Miss Dena, I would implore you to. Her links should be in the description. She did do a video of her own brief thoughts today, and I would recommend going and watch that. I do agree with what she had to say. And I have similar but different perspective in a different way. So if you're new to my channel, my degree is in social work. I have a bachelor's in social work. I grew up in the system for 10 years. And if you haven't watched back on those videos, I was put into the system because of substance abuse. My biological mother was a very, very heavy user. She was very heavy in her addiction and always has been. And even until she passed away a couple of years ago, she was still abusing medications and things of that nature. In addition to that, I have worked for CPS. I think almost everybody knows that at this point. In that line of work, clearly we work with people in different stages of addiction and in recovery during that job. So I have close professional experience. My last job that I worked for a year, I was a case manager / probation officer, where I primarily worked with people who had criminal charges related to substance abuse. Not all, but the majority of my clients did. Personally, I have had two family members within mine and my husband's family that we have actually helped into recovery very closely. Like, they lived with us. We helped motivate them and keep them able to have stability to get into that lifestyle and maintain that lifestyle. So it's always a big passion of mine to try and bring awareness and have conversations around this kind of topic. And I thought it would be a great time to have this conversation with somebody who has been through it themselves. I've never personally really struggled with addiction. I've worked with it closely, clearly, but personally, I have not had that path. So I think having this kind of conversation and really opening it up for everybody to understand and for us to feed off of each other is a good way to help reduce stigmas, help provide education, and help keep people from putting out ignorant tweets like that, harming a very, very, very sensitive community, depending on where individuals are in their recovery, especially with the kind of platform she has. So I'm going to let Dena talk a little bit about herself and why she's passionate about this, and then I'm going to pull up the tweet and we'll have a discussion about the tweet and move on from there.
Hey, I didn't know some of that about you, actually. Well, most of you know me. If you don't, I am Dena Danzig. I have a YouTube channel. Previous to my YouTube channel, I am a writer of the nonfiction and fiction variety. I've been on Instagram for many years, and I have a platform there. And most of all, I am a recovering alcoholic. And I'm very open about that. In fact, the reason that I go live on avatars is because from my alcoholism, I have involuntary muscle spasms and facial twitching. And I do, at this point, maybe one day I'll be able to, but right now, the more nervous I am, the worse it is. So it's just easier for me to be live and just do uploads. That's how I do my channel. I'm also a mother of special needs children. I'm also very passionate about that. But when I went on Twitter yesterday and I saw that tweet, I wasn't so much offended for myself. I was offended for not only recovering addicts, but potentially recovering addicts, because when someone, one of the hardest parts of getting sober, if you have ever had an addiction issue, is that first step to getting sober. And one of the scariest things for someone who is just making that step is rejection or judgment, or somebody basically telling you, well, you did this, but it just wasn't good enough. So in this particular tweet, I am clean and sober, meaning that I don't do any substances. However, I don't know much about Demi Lovato, but what I could tell from what I saw the documentary and just having any common sense is clearly her issue is not alcohol or marijuana. So if she is using those things right now, as I did when I first got sober, not alcohol, but the other stuff, and it is not causing her to relapse back to the deadly addiction that she had, then that is her business. And Katie has a really bad habit of interjecting herself into things that simply are not her business. And now she's kind of stepping on the recovery community's toes, and we don't like that. So that's what I have to say so far.
Yeah, so I have pulled the tweet up, and hopefully you guys are able to view it. The tweet reads, if you're driving or just listening, Demi Lovato's new documentary is about her near fatal overdose and her path to sobriety. However, she's not sober. She drinks alcohol and smokes marijuana. I am not sure why this documentary is being spun as though she's in recovery. She is not in recovery if she is still using. I'm going to try my best to maintain the level of professionalism you guys have seen from me and a lot of people have come to my channel for. However, based off of the things I told you at the beginning, this absolutely infuriates me. And I'm probably going to get a little mad and I'm probably going to cuss here and there because of how painful and hurtful and degrading and misinformed this tweet is. Whether you want to believe her sub count or not, we're going to base it off of her sub count, okay? She has 140,000 people who could potentially see this shit, okay? She has no idea who in her audience may only be a minute clean, may only be a month clean, may only be a year clean and is struggling. And they see somebody that they may look up to put something like this out. Does she not understand the repercussions that shit like this has? Because this could be the one thing for that one person to relapse. It is absolutely abuse of her platform. It is her just spewing off at the mouth and thinking she's educated about all of these areas, and she's not. This shows she is not educated. This shows, as Dana said in her video, she's not an advocate. She has no level of advocacy when it comes to sobriety, when it comes to particular things like SA. We're not going to go down that route, but she lacks so much to be an actual advocate. And it's frustrating that she tries to say this stuff and she goes out and she says stuff like this. Recovery is different for everyone. This is putting the same type of mentality that society demonizes people who have been put through trauma that causes them to have these urges. People tend to lack having the comprehension of why someone typically turns to use drugs or why they turn to abuse alcohol. It is not because they willy-nilly decided one day, I want to be a drug addict. I want to put myself at the bottom of the barrel just to be able to try and fight my way back out. No one voluntarily puts themselves there. No one. In this
exactly. Well, nobody asked for trauma, and nobody asked for and listen, there's been studies that there are genetic aspects to addiction. There's so many reasons that you can become addicted, but my thing is, look, my goal, and I got there, was to be 100% sober, which means I wasn't smoking weed, and I wasn't, because when I first stopped drinking, I was such a heavy drinker that clearly I have physical repercussions of that may never go away. That's how deep into my alcoholism I was. It's not like I was somebody who liked to go I'm not trying to throw shade, but, somebody who liked to go out and throw my skirt over my head and get drunk, through half of my adult life, and then now cry about it as if I'm an advocate for addiction. I truly was dependent on alcohol, and I did not ask to be that way. And when I got sober, I need, there's a lot of things that come with that. You got, depending on what it is and how far into it you are. So yeah, I did smoke, but my ultimate goal was to be clean and sober. And I am. You'll rarely see me take an ibuprofen. With that being said, you could be a recovering addict and meet me in the street. And, maybe your drug of choice was opiates, but you have a couple beers when you get off work. I'm not going to judge you for that, because that is not my place to do so, and maybe Demi Lovato will get to a point where she is 100% clean of everything, and maybe she won't, but that's nobody's choice to make.
Well, and this also pushes the stigma, and I know this is a controversial topic, so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, because we didn't preface any of this conversation beforehand for the audience, just so you're aware. But this kind of puts the same premise on if you're using methadone or Suboxone or any of the medicated assistant treatment programs to help you not be addicted to opiates. This kind of puts the same thing, like, oh, if you're taking methadone or you're taking Suboxone, you're not clean.
Right.
And that's asinine.
That upsets me a lot, actually. And and there's so much stigma, excuse me, there's so much stigma around methadone. And in the area I live, okay, hold on, I was answering in the chat real quick. Someone asked how long I've been sober for 2 years, and I was sober before that, and I had a relapse, so I started over. If that makes sense. I had a short relapse and started over. Somebody asked me that, so I was trying to type it out, but I'll just say it. So in the area I live, meth addiction is massive here. And
I live everywhere. Everywhere.
And if you watch any of my true crime stuff, I only do it for the area I live in, because that's how much happens here. I don't need to expand out. Well, there is a huge issue, because I'm in such a small area of the world, where people who don't understand, these kids finally get off this dope and they start doing methadone, and then people look down on them for doing the methadone, and then they hit this wall where they're like, well, what the F's the point then? I might as well go back to doing dope, because everybody thinks I'm a piece of crap whether I'm doing methadone. You know what I'm saying? And then these kids relapse. And this year alone, and the year is new, we have lost 10 kids in this, just in my county, under the age of 30, relapsing, that had been in recovery and were on methadone, one of which was my neighbor that we cared about very much. So when she puts this out into the universe, she is setting people up for failure, because it is, you don't know what triggers people, and you can't be responsible for everybody's triggers. But this was a blatant shot at not only Demi Lovato, but anybody who's in recovery that doesn't meet her standards. And I'm sorry, but I don't know how she has any standards. Her husband is supposedly sober. Either he's sober or he's not. Either he was an alcoholic or he just was a binge drinker that got it under control. She needs to get her story straight.
Well, and based off of this tweet, it doesn't matter, because in her eyes, then he's not pure.
Right. Yeah. So what is she saying? I mean, and if he truly is in recovery, how does he feel about this? I mean,
it's super frustrating. And, I do want to congratulate you or anybody who's in the chat, no matter where you're at in your recovery, the fact that you have started that road. Most people who have any kind of common sense can acknowledge the amount of bravery and strength that those things have to take for you to even start that journey. It is amazing and beautiful. And to be able to have walked that with people in my personal life twice now, I will say neither one of them are clean. One is now clean to this extent. One is not. One smokes marijuana because it's legal in their state and they use it medicinally. They don't abuse it. but it helps calm their nerves. It does help them level out because of all of the crap that they've been through in their life. They need something to cope, and they don't want to take mental health medication. So, I mean, this is an apples and oranges conversation. And if we're going to I've never really talked about her behaviors or her husband's behaviors or really brought that into the conversation. But when you're going to put stuff like this out into the universe multiple times, I mean, this isn't the first time she's done stuff like this, but if she's going to continue to do this, like, she cannot be mad when people are nitpicking how she behaves when she openly talks about being on a narcotic for her mental health, and then sits there and drinks a couple of glasses of wine. Everybody as an adult understands that you are not supposed to do that. And it explains some of her behaviors that happen afterwards that cause her so much stuff, because she's just acting irrationally because of what she's doing.
Well, and here's the thing with me, you know, and it's a whole other conversation, but I used to be a sub of hers 2 years ago or something. It was a long time ago. And I stopped subscribing to her. I didn't like her behavior. Mm-hmm. I was on Twitter for a little while. I had opinions on her, but never have I attacked her marriage or her parenting, or even really said much about her drinking, because it's her life. But yeah, at this point, in fact, on my channel, the only thing I've ever talked about has actually been all the infighting with the anti-KJ people, or the one time I discussed her misinformation about her dogs. Other than that, but when I saw this, it would be irresponsible of me not to say anything. And yeah, I don't have this massive platform on YouTube, but there are too many people in my life on social media that do care about what I think, and that I help them through their sobriety, and I'm their sober buddy, you know. And it's like, so what if somebody sees this? I don't know how many people I help online that watch her, you know.
Right.
I have no idea, because we don't talk about that kind of stuff. But for her to do that was just, if anything, it was blatantly irresponsible. She holds herself at such a high regard, being a quote unquote journalist. Then she needs to put her money where her mouth is for once, and be the advocate that she says she is. I feel like she's living in this world that only exists to her. Nobody else sees this. And the other day I did another truck talk that was kind of about her, but it was actually more about all the anti-KJ people who keep almost trying to bully her into sobriety, because some videos came out of her very clearly under the influence of something, right? And I went on there and half defending her, but I also said some facts. If she is addicted to anything, allegedly, alcohol, whatever, there is I always say this, and people who are addicts probably get it, and people who aren't think this is a mean thing to say, but it's not. There is a level of narcissism in addiction when you're actively addicted. So for me, or you, to even this conversation right now, she's just going to get offended. She's not going to hear anything, because she would rather go down and be right than get humble and be like, hey, maybe I might want to change this or change that. Or at the very least, for the love of God, keep my mouth shut. But it's never going to happen. And it's never going to happen right now, because she's in total denial all the way around the board. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but I'm a little irritated with this.
No, I understand. And, you know, I know a lot of people are kind of newer to my channel because of talking about Katie. I'm very much similar to you, though. Back in like November, I was covering her pretty regularly, but then I stopped, because I know making videos, initially when I made videos about her, it was in hopes that maybe she would come across like my teeny tiny, hardly existing channel and see it, and maybe hear, because I really was coming from a place of good intentions and really just trying to help her and give her alternatives. Then I got frustrated, and I was like, listen, like, if you're not going to listen to me being nice, maybe I really just need to lay it out cut and dry. And then I did a couple of videos like that, and I was like, you know what, she doesn't care. Even if she saw it, she's not going to care. No. She has proven that point to me now, which is fine. But I don't really cover her now unless it's something that really rubs me wrong. Her stuff about CPS and providing all of that stuff, you can go back and watch that live stream if you haven't. I mean, that's why I did that video. And that's why I kind of was harping on this tweet on Twitter. I'm not a huge Twitter user because it's so infuriating. I mean, it's just misinformation. And that's my biggest issue with her. For someone who does claim she's a journalist, and I've never really come for her for this, but journalists do their fucking research. Like, right. Where is her research? Like, this is such a statement that would not be held in any kind of high regard anywhere. Right. I don't know anywhere that would clip this exact statement from her and put it up on a billboard and go, great observation. You are so right, because it's just not how the world sees things now.
Pretty much everybody disagreed with her if you read the comments on that. I mean, that did not age well at all. She upset a lot of people.
Her Twitter never gets any kind of engagement anymore because she has everybody blocked. And I'm not saying that to be shady. It's true. Like, she has people who follow her. She has a large following on all of her other platforms. And the only one she gets like hardly an engagement on is Twitter. And it's because she has everybody in their family blocked because she is so sensitive, which if you're sensitive, fine. Don't make yourself a freaking target then. This kind of stuff, she knows makes herself a target. You can't just say that and not think of the potential repercussions unless she thinks that she is all-knowing and always going to be right. And then we have a different issue.
Well, listen, when I saw Zag Creations called her out on that thread that she was wrong, I'm surprised she's not going to block her, honestly, because, I'm pretty sure she blocked pretty much everybody in there because these were her subs, not just Twitter people that came out and said, hey, I'm an addict. I find this offensive. And some of them I saw she blocked her own subs, so if you're going to say it, then own it. Don't say things because you want attention or engagement, or you want, to kind of ruffle some feathers so everybody's talking about you again. I think that's why she does this stuff.
Oh, I do too. I think a lot, and I've called her pattern out before, and I even did in that CPS video, and I said her problem in that before she came in and disrupted was that she's reactionary. She doesn't actually pay attention. She just sees something or hears something, and she just jumps to whatever her mind jumps to, and she's automatically in defense mode. Do I kind of get it because of the shit she's been through these last few months? I mean, karma is karma. I do believe in karma. So what goes around comes around. But I get her being defensive because there is so much, bullshit out there. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to shade at anybody. But there are some of what she says, there is truth to it in some areas. So I don't blame her, but it's not necessary. It's how she's an adult. Like, that's what I don't understand. You're an adult and you're going out and you're saying these kinds of things, and when it comes to things as sensitive as the innocent, so children, elderly, animals,
and then that's the thing is I try to take her in very small doses. There's so many people who are covering her and I appreciate the ones who do. I don't know how some of y'all keep up with it. If you're in the chat, thank you.
I don't either.
But I will only say something about her if it aligns with my channel, which it did in this instance. And if it aligns with my morals and it's something I know what I'm talking about. Like when you talk about the DCF stuff, you know what you're talking about. I would never touch that subject because I know nothing about it. Moderate said something real quick. He said, if you make it through the day sober, great. If you make it through the day not in jail or dead, great. You can try again tomorrow. More concepts she doesn't get. And that's what upset me the most about this. I tried to get sober so many times. And if you know, right, Moderate? If you know, and you fail and it sucks, and you just, but I don't need Katie Joy rubbing it in people's faces like, oh, great. You got off a drug that almost killed you, but that's not good enough. You need to do this and this too. Who is she to even, who does she think she is? I get
that argument. I also, like, from the professional standpoint, depending on the background that the person is coming from, you learn that unfortunately relapse oftentimes is a part of the recovery process for some. Some people literally have to get to that breaking point for them to want the change. And you can't force recovery, whether it's court ordered or not. That's coming from somebody who had to, enact court orders. Like, if the person doesn't want to, it's not going to stick, And this is furthering that, if you, especially when opiates are, it's just such a huge issue in today's world. Like you were saying, how common it is in your small town. It is common everywhere. It is it's just easy to get and it's cheap. So people will use it.
I think it seems more big to me because the town's so small. And so I know everybody. It's not like when you live in the city and you don't know everybody. I think that's more, but thank you for correcting me on that. But yeah, it is everywhere. But I think I take it so personal here because we literally have 800 people in the whole, you know what I mean? In the whole town. So it's like, you lose a couple or a lot and you're like, whoa. I don't know how you do this as far as I'm trying to keep your chat move so fast. Wow.
When I have conversations like this, I don't really pay too much attention to it until the end.
I don't know. I'm so new to
this. You
can
if you want. If you want to read what they're saying, usually I do, when we're talking about serious topics like this, I do the live. And then once we get kind of through all of our points, then usually when I engage the chat. But if you want to, feel free.
Oh, no, you're cool. I don't know the etiquette, girl. I'm still learning all this live stuff. Claire's been teaching me, but I've only gone in there a couple of times. But no, I feel like I'm so glad you invited me on for this because, look, I'm not here to bash her. I openly stand against those who do go after her looks or her, stupid, petty little things. You know what I mean?
Childish. I've kind of talked about some of that before as well. It's gotten a little out of hand, in my opinion.
Right. And just like when I said there's a level of narcissism and addiction, I'm not calling her or diagnosing her that. I'm saying even when I was actively addicted, I was a little bit narcissistic because all I cared about was myself. And if you told me, hey, you got a problem, I'd look at you and be like, falling over a chair or something like, no, I don't. I only have like 6 drinks a day, or whatever. Because that's how it is. You're in total denial until you realize that there's a problem. So that's what I mean by the narcissist part.
But and I know exactly what you mean by that. I mean, not hypothetical here. This is kind of going back to CPS days. Doesn't matter what the DOC, drug of choice is, whether it was alcohol or drugs. Every parent loves their kids, whether you are actively in addiction or not, you love your kid.
Right.
But when you are in that addiction, your children are not your first thought.
No.
And that is the narcissism of your substance abuse. And, I've had to have that conversation more times than I could probably even recall. And it's a hard conversation to have with parents, and especially when you're talking through it and they're people, especially when you catch the people who are in their addiction, but they really are wanting recovery. There's just so much to unpack that they don't know where to start. And so when you start breaking down those walls with them and you're talking to them about their children and you're making them understand the effect that their addiction has had on their children, the negative impact that it has had and it will continue to have, to see people break down is some of the hardest but most rewarding part of when I was working that field. Right. Because that you were the one that caused that breakthrough. And it's hard. It is such a hard conversation to have. And what happens when you have people who put out these demonizing stereotypes that you have to be totally clean to be, considered sober. It's just harmful. It's harmful to so many. It's harmful to people who are trying to be in recovery, people who maybe just got their foot in, but they're still really struggling. It's just so frustrating. It really is so frustrating.
Because I've been that parent. Mm-hmm. So I, on the other end of it, unfortunately, I never had that talk, but on the other, but I had it with myself. And listen, I'm totally transparent with this. First of all, my oldest child is 22 years old. Okay. I'm the same age as Katie. People don't realize that. Okay. My oldest child is 22 years old. I was a functional alcoholic his entire life. Did I take care of him? Did he have horses? Did he get a cool car when he turned 16? Did he have all this stuff? Yes. But my priority was drinking. I would still be a mom and do all those things. And then when he went to bed or or in the evening or when he was older and I could go out and do stuff, that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
When my girls were very young, that was thankfully when I finally got my shit together. And then I had the one relapse for about a month. And then I went back to it. Because, and one of the biggest things was I did not want, now listen, my son turned out great. He'll tell you that, but it's always me who's like, yeah, but I'll always live with that. You know what I mean? I'll always live with that. So I told myself, I'm not going to do that to my girls. I'm not going to rush my kids to bed so I can sit on my back porch and drink a beer. Now my life is, as you know, because we had to schedule this around me, and Claire knows when she wants to go lie with me. My life is now them. It isn't me drinking. So now I do read them books and do the things with them that I didn't do with my son because it cut into my drinking. And that's as brutally honest as I can be, I didn't want to go to a theme park because I couldn't drink there. Or, that's how seriously bad you can get.
Well, and that's what, for alcohol, I think people struggle with understanding, people who are actual alcoholics versus people who may be heavier drinkers. There is a line, and I'm sure you know that. And people just don't understand that. So I think people have a harder time understanding alcoholism, and I appreciate you opening up and kind of explaining that. And functioning addicts exist both with alcohol and with illicit drugs.
Right.
I mean, people just, if you don't know the signs to look for or what it looks like when someone is under the influence, even if it's of pain medication, if you don't know what to look for, you're not going to know. Unfortunately, I can walk in the grocery store and usually tell who's taking what kind of medication because I've been trained. Almost like law enforcement, we get trained on how to identify what kind of substance people are under the influence of.
Well, right. And that's the thing, too, is that people don't realize is, well, first of all, this whole generation of mom juice. People talk about mom juice, which I think is adorable, even though I'm an alcoholic. I think it's funny, but at the same time, it's not good for, moms who are alcoholics. But with that being said,
predisposed.
But you get to a point, and if you worked with parents like that, where you totally are functional. You aren't out there falling over drunk and stuff. You're out there looking totally normal, doing groceries, going to meetings at schools. I mean, you are, my son, of course, that was, he's 22. So things were a little bit different back then. But people don't realize that you could have a functioning alcoholic parent right in your face and you would never know. You just wouldn't know it unless you knew what to look for. And the other thing people think is that because it's alcohol that you can just quit.
Alcohol is the most deadly thing to come off of. Anybody who has any education around it will be able to tell you. People who are going into withdrawal from alcohol are more likely to end up in a fatality, let me verb it that way, than people who are coming off of meth or heroin. Because there's medications to assist with that. There are medications to assist with alcohol too. Right. But if you don't go, when people are detoxing from severe alcoholism, you have to be hospitalized.
Yeah. Well, you either have to be hospitalized or you have to work with a doctor and have medical intervention. I had mini strokes when I quit drinking also. And then, like I said, if you're just now coming in, that's why I think eventually I could go live on video. But I do uploads on my channel and stuff because I have this issue from all the years of me drinking where my face twitches and stuff. And you can kind of see it in my uploads that I move a lot. and it's me trying to control these muscle spasms that I have. And I don't know if they'll ever go away, but it seems like the more nervous I am, they get worse, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, there are people think you just quit and walk away. And listen, you can screw yourself up. And then like rapid eye movements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say any names, but I'm starting to notice that in a few creators' videos. Rapid eye movements and the tics, the facial tics and stuff. That was one of the first signs of my problem that other people noticed before I even noticed it. Was the involuntary muscle spasms and stuff.
Well, and people, whether you're using, I don't mean to say this word to trigger anybody, but it really is, you're abusing something, right? So whether you're abusing alcohol or some other drug, anyone who is educated can typically pick up on it. It's whether or not those people, and I don't mean this to hurt anybody's feelings, but it really is whether or not those people around you that you are engaging in those activities with love you enough to try and intervene. And I don't mean like have the stereotypical intervention. I mean bringing it to your attention. So I've said I never actually experienced addiction, and I didn't. However, I will tell a story. I've told it before when I've talked about alcoholism in the past. When I was younger, like 21, 22, so new to drinking. I didn't drink until I was 21 because of my biological mother. I was very much,
okay.
I'm never going to do drugs. I'm going to abstain from doing anything that could get me in trouble and can ruin my life, because what she did with her life ruined my life as a child. So I didn't want that. I didn't want to go down that path. So I had abstained from everything. I turned 21 and I just balls to the wall drinking. Going out and partying, and it got to a point. My husband was deployed, and it did get to a point for me. I'm predisposed, genetically, I'm predisposed to having a more addictive personality because my mom did use drugs while I was in her womb, and
Right.
it's a scientific thing. So I am predisposed to have an addictive personality. So I started to drink a lot and all the time. When my husband was deployed, and it started to affect like my actual life. It started to affect like the little job I had. It was affecting that. It was affecting like my friendships, because the only time I wanted to hang out with them is if they were willing to go out to the bar with me.
Right.
And my parents noticed it. My mom noticed it. And although I was really like offended and kind of pissed off that she brought it to my attention, she did. She was like, hey, like, I think you need to cut back on going out so much. I think maybe you're drinking a little bit too much. And it took me like, I don't know, 2 days after that talk to like really sit down and like have that inner dialogue with myself. And I looked around the house that we had at the time, and it wasn't trashed or anything, but I could tell I was like neglecting house duties, and I was the only one who lived in the house at the time. And I was like, man, I really need to cut back. And I had since that point, like once I had that conversation with myself, I did. But if I didn't have my mom have that conversation with me, I probably would have become an alcoholic there for a while. And who knows if I would have been able to come out of it.
Right. No, and that's good. And, that's a combination of inner strength and honestly, I don't know, because I am pretty sure that I'm probably predisposed to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
My biological grandmother, I never met her. She had issues with alcohol bad, and she drank herself to death before she was 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know that. But first of all, when I talk about my addiction, you got to understand, I don't do it because I expect any sympathy at all.
Oh, I'm the same way when I talk about stuff.
I don't expect any sympathy. I own my shit. I say it all the time. I own my shit. There's a beauty in that. And as you get older too, you have to, at some point, you have to get to a point where you're like, I did this. I can't change it, but I can do this better tomorrow, and I think a lot of times too, I have more compassion for people, even if they're actively addicted and they're not, which is also why that tweet upset me, and they're not in recovery yet. because I understand, because I've been there.
Exactly.
You know, but at the same time, like me telling you guys my story, me telling you guys that I have like this physical issue, whatever, I don't expect sympathy for that. You can flat out say, well, that was fucking stupid. I know it was fucking stupid, you know, but when you're in it and you're consumed by it, you're functioning and you're there, but it's not even that I was like I said, I wasn't falling down, puking on myself like people think. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was worse than that though, because what I was checked out. I was there and I was doing and going through all the motions, but I was checked out. I was missing important things. I was not seeing the little things that you see when you get sober, you know, like listening to your kids arguing in the back seat over who farts the loudest, you know,
Right.
like the good stuff, right? You know, like those little things you hear when they happen and you laugh, but you don't remember them 10 years later. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all the little stuff. And people get there. If you're addicted now and you're not recovered, you'll get there, you know, but it's not my place or yours or anybody else's to say how or when.
Or to judge it. Exactly. Like nobody really should be intervening on anyone else's or furthering stigmas that already exist. Like this community, the recovery community, people who are in addiction, they fight so many stereotypes all of the time. And when people nonchalantly say foolish and ignorant things, because they are ignorant, like you're not educating yourself enough to understand how this community or how it actually affects people, it's harmful. And it's scary when we have people, you know, who are in these positions of having followings blurting out misinformation, misconceptions, furthering stigmas, trying to preach on their soapbox when their soapbox isn't even an inch off the ground. It is.
Well, when your soapbox is a wine box, you probably shouldn't be preaching off of anything. I just said that, you know.
When it comes to substance abuse, absolutely not. And, you know, it's interesting hearing like your story and kind of how you work through it versus like the family members that we have helped. They were on very illicit drugs. The first family member we helped was addicted to meth and left a very dangerous situation. And then the second individual that we helped that was also a family member was addicted to Xanax, and they were getting Xanax from Mexico that was laced with fentanyl. And through her sharing her traumas and her stories with me, she had to be back with Narcan like more times than she could remember.
Wow.
And it's scary. And when I think of her, or I think of the other family member that we've helped, or the countless families that I've assisted, or clients I worked with, when I think of them and knowing their stories and where they come from and where they are all at in their different stages of recovery or in active addiction, and I see stuff like this, I know for some of them on a bad day, if they looked up to this person and they saw this, it would just cause them to use. And it's so scary to really know that it takes that little for somebody to relapse depending on where they're at.
It can. It could be. It could be something as simple as, and she'll say if she even sees it, she'll say we're overreacting, but I'm not overreacting. That tweet can relapse somebody.
Absolutely. And it could be someone's last relapse. And that's the reality. And if she ever watches this, I hope she gets to this point and I hope she listens. Like, you could have been the reason somebody used. You could have been the reason somebody used for their last time because you're ignorant and you refuse to see everything for what it actually is.
I think sometimes you know, and I've given her a lot of grace, I feel, you know, a lot more than most people. And I think a lot of her problem is she holds people to a very high standard, whether it be their emotional strength, their sobriety, their ability to snap back from trauma. She holds people to a very high standard as parents, as human beings, as husbands, as wives. But she doesn't hold herself to most of them. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that as an observer on the outside looking in. And I was, I've been focused on you, and the chat's moving too fast anyway, but I did see something fly by. I don't even know who said it, that said, I can spot somebody a mile away. So can I, because when you know, and I can see, that's all I'll say, is I can see when there is something that going on, especially with behaviors and erraticness and saying things and then saying something different 20 minutes later, because I've been that person.
Yeah.
So, I think that she needs to really worry about her own dogs before she's pissing over somebody else's fence at this point, because she's putting her hands in too many pots right now. And now she's coming after the sober community, and she's going after all the Christians, and it's getting to be too much. But this, in our climate today, and so many people we're in a generation of you younger people where you openly talk about your addictions, which is amazing. That never used to be the case. So she's in a climate where she's going to get a lot of kickback from sober people for judging us the way that she's judging us.
And I don't mean to, this is probably going to get me some hate, but I mean, it's honestly my observation, and I don't mean this to invalidate anything that she has shared with us before, but it really makes me question some of the things that she has shared because of how flippant she is. If you have actually experienced some of the things that she wants to claim she's an advocate for and like be self-righteous about and like say that she has a place to talk about it, anybody who's actually experienced things that she does this about, do not behave in this manner. It's behavior like I cannot pinpoint down, and it, not that it's my job to, but it's right. Just I don't understand it. I absolutely do not understand how you are the victim of so many things based off of what you tell your audience, but you damn and you stigmatize and you stereotype anyone else in the same fucking position. I just can't understand. I cannot grasp my head around that at all. I just can't. It's something I can't do.
Well, I find that the problem is when you're talking about your experiences, that's great. That's actually part of what keeps me sober, okay, is I share my experiences hoping I will help somebody. That's one of the whole reasons I ballsed up and got a channel,
Yeah.
But she has this mentality. She's a one-upper, okay? So she doesn't share her experience in the hopes of helping you. I don't follow her very close, okay? But I've seen enough to see where, if she's a victim of something and someone in her chat comes in and tries to relate to her, she attacks them. And I just don't, I don't want to question the validity of any of her claims, but I do question her recollection of them. And I also question her motives when she's attaching herself so violently to every single story she tells.
Yes.
Because it's very unhealthy for her too, because if she truly is a victim of all of these things, I know for me, I've been a victim of quite a few things myself, I wouldn't want to relive it daily. I wouldn't want to absorb my life into remembering the worst, darkest parts of my life, if that makes sense. It doesn't make any sense to me why she does that. If she is what she says she is, why? I just don't see the healing part of that, where you immerse yourself in it and you re-victimize yourself over and over and over again.
I mean, you worded it a lot more professionally than I did. Absolutely. That's the problem I have is, I don't want to question anyone's story. I never want to invalidate anyone speaking out about an experience on anything. That is not my place. And that's kind of what I say on my channel a lot. It's no one's place really to question. However, when there's so many inconsistencies in the same story, when you are constant, it's like professional victimization. But how can you, and I grew up with people like this, and it's something I've never understood. I prefaced, and a lot of people know, I was in the system for 10 years. I was in state care for 10 years. I have never been somebody who tells my story to garner sympathy, to garner pity. If anything, I shelter my story from anyone because I don't want those things. I don't want people to feel bad for me. I don't want people to sympathize. I want people to just understand and make sure that they don't make those mistakes and they do better for themselves and their own families, or to help people who are in that situation. So growing up, there would be people who would have crappy childhoods, who would try to have it like a competition with me, like, oh, well, this happened to me, did it happen to you? And I'm like, what the fuck does that matter? Like, we both experience shit. Why is it a competition on whose shit is worse than the others and who's dealing with it in what way? And I feel like she does that, and she does that with the stories that she talks about. She relates her own self and her own experiences in a weird, twisted way. From what like, my personal opinion, this isn't going out on anybody else but me, but she makes it very twisted and makes it like her situation was worse than yours. Like that one chat that she did where I think Suzanne's in here. When I went off on that advocacy video I did 2 months ago, it was because she was trying to Sympathy. I'm totally going to say that stream she did about her son was totally a sympathy grab. It was quickly after something happened within the lawsuit, and she was trying to keep her views up, in my opinion.
Is this, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
Is this the stream where the woman's daughter had passed away?
Yes.
I've only seen the clips and the screenshots. I haven't.
Be glad, because you would be infuriated. The only way I found it was because Aaron from EKC People Suck had played it, and that was the only way I was able to watch the full stream. I could not tell you how pissed off I was for over 2 days, to the point that I made that video on her advocacy, because she sat there and pity me, poor me, my son almost died, and you have a member in your fucking chat being vulnerable, which is a big thing for people to do online, being vulnerable and expressing how she had lost her child. And Katie got mad and wanted to yell at her and put her in her place. And it's not about, you guys aren't paying attention to what I'm saying. I don't think you guys are listening to what I'm saying. Are you fucking kidding me? Somebody just said one of the most traumatic things a mother could go through, and you lack the empathy to be able to take yourself away from your own shit for 2 seconds and even apologize. I'm so sorry you experienced that. If you need anything, please reach out to me. That is somebody who is responsible and is a fucking advocate would do. Not, you're off topic. You guys aren't even listening to me. I mean, for fuck's sake. My God.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, back when I watched... Yeah, I saw screenshots of that, and I was upset enough. I couldn't imagine I would have been able to. Well, I don't watch her really anyway. I usually catch whoever like recaps it, you know.
Yeah.
But now, back when I was subscribed to her, it was back when she was doing more. She was just getting into the teen mom stuff, and I never really was into chats or anything, so I would just watch her, usually replays. But I like to, like, you know, like this. If I wasn't in this and I missed the live, I would go back and watch the chat replay, but I never really participated. And I'm glad I didn't, because back then, even, she used to yell at people if they changed the topic or if they said hi to each other. You know, that was one of the biggest things that kind of pushed me away from even watching her anymore, because she was just mad. And then it was even more confusing for me because I could never catch her live. So if she deleted the live chat, I didn't even know what she was yelling about. Okay, I mean, if you imagine, like, I'm watching her and she's talking about pseudoscience, and all of a sudden she's screaming at somebody. It didn't make any sense. And so my affair with her was short-lived, because I just don't have the patience for people like that, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt really quick, just for anybody who doesn't know. Susan, I know you're in here. I've never openly talked about it because it makes me so mad, clearly. I know she has started an organization. I can't remember the name of it, but it's to help families with children who are in ill positions. And I think that now is a good opportunity for me to utilize this, and the people that are here. If somebody could grab that link, or herself grab the link, and a moderator, please approve the link to be in the chat. If you ever have anything to donate, please support it. It's a nonprofit. It helps people who have ill children, or children who are in certain situations like her daughter, to help them financially get through that hardship that they may be struggling with.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for the super chat. I appreciate that, but I just needed to plug it while she's here, and since it was brought up, it's a good business.
That's awesome. I'll look into them too after this.
I wish I could remember the name of it. It's 3 words, like live, laugh, love, kind of, but in a different way, and I can't remember it for the life of me. So I apologize. I'm not trying to do you a disservice. I just can't remember it.
That is something I can't even fathom, losing your child. I cannot. And listen, I can't fathom almost losing my child. What happened to Katie? I really can't. But I do think that her behavior in that was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I do, and she one-ups everybody with everything, but you don't one-up people with stuff like that. That's just way out there, No,
it's totally inappropriate to do so. Just like it's inappropriate for her to try and judge the recovery community. I mean, not apples to oranges by any means, totally 2 different things, but I can say I am someone who, and I don't go into information for particular reasons, but I can't have children biologically. And it's something new that we have found out within the last year or 2. And all my husband and I both ever wanted was to be parents. So to hear people like her who, you may have had struggles with your kid, make it seem like it was a chore and not like talk about it as, it was really hard, but like we got through it, and like really be heartfelt. Like I feel like if you're going to open up to your audience about a struggle like that to deal with a child, like you're really going to probably break down.
Yeah.
And she's just so detached from it. And I don't understand. I don't know if there is like a reason for it. I don't speculate on people's mental health aside from what they openly discuss. So I don't know if there's a reason behind it on that side, or if there's something we don't know about, but it makes it very hard for me to even be able to relate to Katie. I was subscribed to Katie for about 2 months, and I started to see stuff quickly. And then once I saw things for what they were, and stuff like this happens, I just can't help but get overly irritated because I don't think she cares. I've never said that before, but I mean, genuinely, like that's how I feel at the depths of me, is I genuinely don't think she cares. Like when she came into my live stream, I don't think she cared what I was saying. I don't think she cared that I was defending her at some points and really just using what she decided to put out there as an educational tool. I don't think she understands that, and I don't think she cares, and I don't think she wants to care. She wants.
She doesn't. Everything is a dick measuring contest with her. I mean, it just is. And sorry, but no, it is. Now, as far as her, I had never speculated on her son. I don't know. I've seen some things. I don't know. I'm not a professional when it comes to that. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that I see.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are that way.
Yeah. I too have a special needs child, and I, as we talked about karma, I believe and I don't mean this in a resentful way. I mean this in a wonderful way. She is my karma, I believe, for all the unattentiveness of my past mistakes with my adult son, because there is no unattentiveness with this kid at all. And she's amazing and wonderful. But I have a daughter who is developmentally and mentally, she's going to be 5, but she's a 2-year-old essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's on the spectrum. She requires I have to physically take her to 3 therapies 3 times a week, but that is the highlight of my life because I'm sober and I actually enjoy those things, and I enjoy watching her learn to do new things. Like she just recently was able to open a bottle of water by herself with her muscles, with her hands and things like that. So I can't relate to her approach and the way that she talks, if that makes sense. It's not that I'm judging her as a mom.
No.
I can't relate.
And I understand why you can't relate. And I can't relate because I've talked about this briefly in other CPS talks, but people who have children who are on the spectrum at some point in time typically always end up with CPS involvement, especially if their child is nonverbal and on the spectrum. You are often likely to have CPS show up because of behaviors that are known to exhibit in certain levels on the spectrum, where children may hurt themselves inadvertently and unintentionally. And when they do that, they often are in weird spots and they can't say how the injury happened. So oftentimes CPS shows up. So I have had to talk to a number of autistic parents and ask them what's going on. And I know quite a bit about, I don't know in detail like the spectrum in its entirety, but I know of a lot of the behaviors and their development because of working cases like this. And every time I come in contact with parents who have children who are on the spectrum, like just on the spectrum, maybe may not have any other coexisting diagnoses, but just on the spectrum alone, they are the most gentle, patient, down-to-earth people I have ever met because they have to be for their children. I don't see any of that in Katie Joy. And I don't know if that's because, you know, she has another parent in the house that is taking a lot of the responsibilities of being a parent, or if it's because of whatever reason it may be. I just don't see those qualities I have always seen in other parents who have children on the spectrum that I don't see with her. And like, that's not to judge her or her parenting. It's just an observation that I have.
Right. And for me, you know, I can only go off, you've been around so many children. I can only go off my own kids, you know, and I know that for me, especially with my youngest daughter, both of my daughters, we talked about this already, you already know, but they don't. Both of my little girls are on the spectrum. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm not going to lie, I've lost my patience and raised my voice. Sure, I have. You know, when you are, you know, 8,429 hours in a day deep into being screamed at, and you know, that kind of thing. Sometimes you're just like, will you just stop? Or, you know, it happens. That part I get, you know. My husband works 50 hours a week. I don't have somebody there, you know, so I do it myself, plus everything else that I do, which is why a lot of times, other than Twitter, you don't see me doing a whole lot during the day, you know, because that's my job during the day is them. So I get that, but yeah, you do have to be patient. You have to be even when you don't want to be. I can't tell you how many times I have stood there doing the dishes, staring out the window at my chickens in the yard, crying just a little bit. Yeah. And they're in the other room just screaming at each other, and they sit directly next to each other and play Roblox, but they act like they're miles apart. And after so many hours of that, you know, you stand there and you stare out the window and you've got a tear streaming down, but you do it, you know, you do it. And then the next day you try to do better. I mean, for me, that's being a mom, you know, especially since I feel like I'm being a makeup mom sometimes because, you know, I was not the greatest when I was a young mom. So now that I'm an old lady mom, I'm trying to be a better one, you know?
Well, and that's a good preface. At some point, I am going to have Dana on for like an open discussion Monday where we talk about her experience as being a parent of children who are on the spectrum. We're going to have an open discussion. We haven't gone into any details, dates, or anything like that, but it is something that I think is important. And I have experience of, like I said, on that end. I don't have a lot of experience aside from professionally. You know, I don't know children closely in my life who are on the spectrum at all. So my knowledge is only known from my short interactions with families. It's not known on like an all day, every day. I know it's hard though. I absolutely know it's hard. And it's something that I think needs to be talked about, and people need to be educated and aware, not only how to approach children who are on the spectrum, because that can be a whole different conversation in itself, but just to start that conversation with somebody who lives it especially with 2 children in your household, who just from our brief conversation, it materializes very differently with both of them. And it's good at education and conversation to have, just like, this conversation primarily has been about, substances and the recovery community and stuff.
Listen, it'll be good for moms out there that feel bad because they feel like they're not doing enough. Listen, ladies and dads, doing it on your own. We are not motherfucking Mary Poppins, okay? I am not spinning around with an umbrella. I'm a human being, and I try to be the best mom I can every day. But there are days that I go to bed and I'm like, man, I did not do a good job today. And I think that'll help bring to light, because your perspectives are amazing too. From your end of stuff, make moms and dads feel okay, because it is okay. It's going to be okay eventually.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've kind of gotten to the end of our ranting and open discussion about the community of recovery and stigma. So I guess now for the last little bit, I don't know what your time frame is, but we can go ahead, and if you guys have any questions, or I'm going to start paying attention to the chat now, is pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel so bad because I'm not used to doing this, and I'm like one of those people. It's like, should I have answered everybody? And now I'm kind of browsing through here.
It would have been impossible for you to answer everybody.
I know. I saw that. Yeah, I see that.
So if you guys have any questions, whether it was earlier on in the stream and we just didn't see it, now's your time to go ahead and ask any questions about stuff that we've talked about. And Dana can also see, so we will both be addressing questions at this point.
Real quick, I want to say thank you to everybody who shared their sobriety. I'm trying to skim through.
We did
you guys
have
are
a lot.
Amazing. Yes, how amazing. And thank you to all the compliments about me as a mom. I appreciate them. I promise I'm not sad fishing or anything. I'm proud of my daughter. I love to brag about her little things she does and stuff. So, but I appreciate that very much.
It's very, these are the live streams I stick to for open platforms, typically are ones that have some kind of goal in mind, such as like when I talk about CPS stuff, it's really to help break down the stigma and provide education, like all of my Monday streams are about, my open discussions. And soon I have had a couple of people reach out to me to want to tell their own experiences of whether it's an accomplishment or a struggle in their life. Soon we will be doing that for the community on my channel here. Hopefully in a few weeks we can get that up and going.
Yeah, I have a question here. Oh, you're welcome, everybody. I don't mind sharing it all. I'm an open book with stuff. I'm a truly open book with stuff. Lynn Diaz said, how's your relationship with your son now? My relationship with my son is really good. I dodged a bullet in my poor choices. I had my son when I was only 18 years old. Okay. So for that, I did the best I could. I apologize to him a lot. But he will tell you, he defends me endlessly. He tells everybody that, I don't know how to explain it, my relationship with him. We grew up together kind of, I'm blessed that he is so forgiving of me just not always being as present as I should have been. But he's 22 and has a beautiful girlfriend and his own apartment, and he lives in Ohio. And, so I'm proud of him. And we talk, but he's got a life and he's cool and I'm not, how that goes. So.
Well, and that's good. And I think that's a conversation that if you haven't had on your channel, I think people would be interested to know how that relationship developed over the years. I know my relationship as being an adoptee, my relationship with my parents has had waivers in it because of stuff that we've been through. But at the end of the day, I am most close to my mom. She is my ride or die, and she knows I'm her ride or die.
Right. Yeah, that would be actually, I know you're always real busy and you just started following my channel. I do something weekly called Turtle Blues Storytime, and I will be covering about it's my favorite Janis Joplin song, and it was the name of my favorite horse. But every week I do a segment, and it is my life and my experiences and what affected my alcoholism also, and then what got me sober. And there will be a episode about being a teen mom and, raising him and that sort of thing. I did another video that I have privated right now just because I wanted to put something out in the universe about, my experiences as a mom when I was younger, but I think I'm going to redo it and approach it differently. But I wanted to get it out in the universe. I did that way when I started the channel, but I'll definitely talk about that more in depth.
Thank you, Tutu Queen, for joining. And thank you, Lee Ann, for the super chat. You say it's completely disgusting to make comments on someone else's sobriety. That is one of the things you learn in recovery. Yeah, I don't understand why she thinks she's so entitled. And that's really it's the best terminology, I think, to relate when Katie posts stuff like this, is she thinks she's entitled to be able to speak her mind and not care if it affects anyone else. She doesn't care.
No, I don't think so. I think Demi Lovato is such a hot topic right now too, that was a driving force in that tweet for sure.
Yeah.
I think she thought that would make some waves, the same as she tries to retweet these. I don't know if are they celebrities? I don't even know, these bigger YouTubers and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like she tries, and then when retweeting them and stuff don't work, it seems like she starts getting angry at them and attacking them to see if that'll work. So I'm wondering if that's really the case here.
Thank you. It's just chat. I think, and I've said this before about Katie, I think she's calculated and she's manipulative. She knows what she's doing. Everything she does, like when she says, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it on purpose, I 100% believe that. I do think she is trying to manipulate her audience and new people coming to her channel, and that's why she cycles through this pattern of like causing an issue, bringing attention to her channel, putting out some sympathy stream or some sympathy video to hook those new people who maybe are just there because they're interested. And then she goes on with their content, and then people start falling off. So she has to do something. She has to engage somebody in a drama. Thank you. It's just chat for super chat. You're so sweet. You guys don't have to do that. I really appreciate it.
The chat so fast. Hi again, Claire. Love you. African lady said, I think being a parent is the hardest job on the planet. One never knows whether you're doing it right or not. That
there is
true.
No right or wrong way to be a parent. I don't like, personally, and I'm not a parent, but I don't like all of the like mommy shaming that happens. Just because you may do something a little bit different doesn't mean that I just don't like how judgmental people are at the end of the day. I'm really not, despite what it may seem like, I'm really not a people person. People really aggravate me.
Honestly, surprisingly, I'm really not either. So, but I have thrived during the quarantine stuff. Let's see. Oh, a couple people just came in. We're not on here to bash Katie. She had made a really off-color tweet challenging Demi Lovato's sobriety, and Amanda was nice enough to have me on to discuss it because I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I kind of work with a lot of people in the sober community. So we were kind of chatting about her very poor choice last night in her tweeting.
Yeah.
Trying to see if I missed anything else. But that's the thing I'm noticing too and that's another, like I said, I see it a mile away. There's certain times a day when she starts out real good and I have hope, and then it goes downhill. And it's certain times a day I find that she starts with the really erratic tweeting and the really poor choices in her topics. And it was about the same time that Demi Lovato tweet happened, I believe. Is usually, 5, 6 o'clock PM ish in her time frame. So
see, I've
something to consider.
Enough. Yeah, and I've never paid enough attention to. Thank you so much for the super chat, World Puzzler Specialist. I honestly have never paid much attention to her. In November, when I pulled back from like knowing what was going on with the lawsuit and everything else, I really did just step away. What happened with the CPS stuff for me to be reined back in is Twitter. I was perusing through Twitter, and somebody I follow on Twitter happened to have shared her inconsistencies on this. I don't even think that was the point of their tweet, but I saw it and I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, what is the point of lying? And like at the time during that live stream, I did not call her a liar. I called it inconsistencies. But at this point, like, thinking back, why provide 3 different reasons? Like, you're trying to confuse people or hope people aren't educated or don't know the system enough to understand that you're providing different information. And that was the point of my stream.
Well, you know what I found funny about that, and I know your stream replay. All the times that she's gone on a rant about the way that one of her quote-unquote trolls treats her, she did not mention coming into your stream once, anywhere.
I doubt she will.
Unless I missed it.
She
never did. Normally she would go get the masses, to be mad at you. She never mentioned once from anything I've seen.
I think not one time. I think a lot of it is because we did have a conversation in DMs, and I think she understood where I was coming from, and it was an agree to disagree kind of conversation at the end of the day. I'm not going to be petty and release all of what was said. It really does nothing but
I wouldn't expect you to.
Continue the argument. But I think she understood, like, I think she's had this preconceived notion that if you've made videos about her, you're instantly a troll, you're instantly a hate channel, all of your videos about her are negative. I mean, she said that in the live stream. I hardly have any actually negative videos on her. All of my videos pretty much have a point in identifying her problematic behavior. And initially they were for, I think we just lost her.
Very directly, but you do it very calmly, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, I don't meet love people eye to eye level. Like, what I mean is, like, if we start here and somebody comes here, I'm not gonna come up to you. I'm gonna stay where I was at. It does me nor you any good if I come up to where you're at.
Right. No, absolutely.
I mean,
I always treat people how they treat me. The only thing that'll make me just cut off and not speak to you at all is if you start being real childish with me. That's one thing about Twitter I can't stand. If you want to talk to me about almost anything, I'll talk to you. But if you come at me like, well, I don't like you. I think you're fat. I think you're ugly. I don't like your house. Your kids are stupid. I'm not going to talk to you, because at that point you've lost me.
Yeah.
That's when my little becoming famous line comes out, which is get the fuck on your horse and go home, because I do not engage with people who act that way. And I see that way too much, especially from her people, so.
And I don't even think, like, when people come at, whether you're a creator or another person on a platform and you have some kind of following, that is not criticism. Like, come at me with criticism, fine. Come at me with your opinion, but do it in a respectful manner. You can come at me and, say, I don't like how you said this, and explain your way without being a total dick. There's no reason to spread out negativity and hate just because you want to. Like, people who, like the bot trolls who come in occasionally on my streams and just say that I'm fat. You think I don't know I'm overweight. Like, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Anything like that is not going to hurt my feelings. And I'm open to criticism. I've had members even tell me at times that they don't like how I said something or that I made a certain video, and I will tell them why I did and stand my point, and we can have an adult conversation and agree to disagree. I think that's why infighting in so many communities is existing, because people literally cannot be adults. They cannot have adult conversations. Instead, it's like high school, middle school. Oh, I'm going to tell this person and hope it gets to them in the right format. And I'm going to do this and shade them. And I'm going to, it's just childish. Like, have an adult conversation, agree to disagree, and move on.
Right, exactly. And I just don't have time in the day for that. I don't have time to spend 3 days arguing with the same person on Twitter and their picture of their cat. I just don't have time. I just do not. So
yeah, I mean, I can respect that. You're going robot on us. Oh, she fell out again. Maybe she'll come back. Are you back?
There? I think I lost you for a second. Are you there now?
Yeah, you went robot.
Oh, sorry.
And you fell out for a second. I do just want to address this one thing. I've had this come at me a couple of times, that Katie said on an Instagram or a live stream somewhere that she apologized and we're good. If you consider an apology to be I'm sorry but, or I'm sorry if, then yes, I got an apology. That's all I'm going to say. Are we good? Yeah.
Oh, I agree
don't
on
have
that.
any ill will with her, but I am not going to not call out her poor behavior. If she continues to engage in these things that I have education about or a background about, and I want to educate, I will continue to talk about her. I'm not going to nitpick and point out every little. If she breathes weird, I'm not going to make a video about it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing I was trying to say before I guess I went all robot on everybody. She and I are the same age, and I said it in my video earlier. At this point in the game, there's not time for this, these games and this like targeted finding things that she knows will push people's buttons and wanting attention all the time. We're not spring chickens, man. Like, I don't know how she does it, because I find myself to be a pretty productive person, and I would not have enough time in the day. I just would not. But at some point, she's going to have to own her shit, and she's going to have to take a look at herself. And that's not me being mean. That's me talking to her woman to woman as being the same age women who grew up in the same generation. That makes us similar enough that I can say, hey, sis, and maybe you should calm down just a little bit, because after that, what little bit of respect I had for her is gone,
Unfortunately, I'd have to agree. Like, I will still always give her the benefit of the doubt where I think, like, how I think I should give it to her. And that's my prerogative. I've never bashed her. I've never even said anything negative about her parenting. I've said everyone could benefit from parenting classes, because that's honestly what I believe, that anyone could benefit from parenting classes. Do I have, like, professionally, I'm not going to get on here and say anything negative or drag anyone without solid proof to support that. But I can speculate when you decide to live stories and say things online. Like, you're allowing us to speculate. You're allowing us to have an opinion, to have observations. You can't get mad. And this goes for every creator, myself included. And I talk about this all the time. I have those conversations with myself when I do live streams. Like, someone could take what I say offensively. Somebody could take what I say out of context. I understand that that's something that is a part of trying to build any kind of community or platform. And, when that happens, I will address it as I have in the past with what I need to show people what's actually happening. I don't like to stoop to that level because I think it's ridiculous, but I will if I have to,
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Listen, I have so much respect for you and I actually found you on accident through your crafting and then went from there. But I have I have so much respect for you. I do have to get off of here though, because it's getting late. My husband's watching a movie with my bonus daughter in the living room right now, but I'm usually in bed by 9, girl. I'm not even joking. I'm like I might be up
I'm
like
on a crazy different time than most people. I'm behind
I
almost
enjoyed this.
everybody.
Yeah, no, this is great though. I'm usually like already in bed, like staring at the TV with my husband or something by now. I'm like, I swear I can't wait to retire. I just can't. So
Well, I appreciate you being here. And for anybody who's not subscribed or following her on Twitter, they should be in the description as well as they're being dropped in the chat. I'm going to hang out just a few more minutes to answer any questions. And then I'm also going to get off of here in like 6 minutes.
awesome. Well, I'll move to the chat for a little bit. But
All right,
thank you so much for having me. And thank you everybody who came.
Well, I appreciate you being here and providing your perspective. It really is helpful to everybody, myself included. And congratulations on your sobriety, just like everybody else's. I know how hard it is to get there, and it really does mean a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who shared your sobriety with me. Thank you so much. And you can reach out to me anytime. All right, awesome. Well, I will be in the chat for a few minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye. All right. So it is just me. And as I said before she exited, I'm not going to be here too much longer. But I am going to leave the chat up just for a little bit in case anybody has anything else that you would like to ask or to share. I know a lot of what we've talked about tonight can be triggering to some. And as I always say, if you are triggered or you need anything, feel free to reach out to me on social medias. You can reach me in DMs or email. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to respond right away because that's unrealistic, but I do try to get back to you as quickly as I can. If you're in the States and you need any kind of assistance, you can always dial *211 from your phone. That will get you to United Way, and you can let them know what kind of information and resources are in your area. If you are in crisis mode, there are always 24/7 numbers that you can call for support and assistance. Never feel ashamed if you are ever in any kind of position to utilize any kind of resource. They are there for a reason. No one is going to judge you on those phone calls. No one is going to judge you for calling and getting help. We want you to call and get help. You need to call and get help if you are in that kind of position. So with all of that being said, I appreciate everybody for being so kind and so open during this conversation. I know we got off on a few little tangents here and there, kind of off topic, but that kind of happens when you're in a live stream, and it is what it is. It was the natural flow of the conversation with you guys and between ourselves. There's no reason to apologize. It's hard to follow a chat when there's as many people in it as we have had tonight. And it really does mean, I don't think I could ever fully express like how much it means to me that people were willing to be vulnerable and have this discussion and even open up about themselves or family and their own experiences. It really does touch me when people feel comfortable enough to talk about those kinds of things in my chat, because I know how hard it is to be vulnerable. It comes easier for some people than others, and I understand that. And that's why anytime anyone is willing to disclose anything personal or anything sensitive, it really does touch my heart. And if I don't catch it during the live, I will tell you guys, I go back and I reread a lot of the chat most of the time once it's loaded. So I typically do end up seeing your stories and what you guys are saying in the chat. I need to use slow mode soon. Okay. I don't know if I could figure that out, Sue. I'll have to try for you. Maybe I could Although I don't like having moderators, and we'll have that discussion, it's looking like on Monday. I may have to add a couple more. All righty. So I don't see it in too many questions coming through, just a lot of thank yous. And there's no reason to thank me. If you guys know of any other topics that you want to talk about, shoot them to me in a DM. As I said, I also am going to be hosting like an open community experience story time situation where I'm going to have you guys come on panel, kind of like Dana and I did tonight. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to put your name. If you want to remain anonymous, you can, where you can come up and you can talk about your stuff, and I can ask questions, or I can provide verbal support as you go through that. And then at the end, we will address the chat and any questions and things like that. Always, only if you're comfortable with that, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. If it's a situation where you don't feel comfortable telling your own story for any kind of reason and you want me to tell it for you, I'm also opening that up to where I will tell your story, but it has to be with your permission. If you want anonymity in your stories, that is totally fine. I don't expect you to tell me anything or any names or anything like that. Never feel you have to. Real Jabber, I would suggest reaching out to Dana on either Twitter or on comment on one of her videos. Her contact information should be in the description. But I would encourage you or anyone else who's interested in like creating a channel to try and like bring awareness and have conversations to do so. There are so many important conversations to have and to continue to have that everyone should, if you're comfortable with having serious conversations and you're not worried about monetization, that you should start your channel and just go with it. If you're comfortable with it, absolutely go with it. Melissa had a question above. Okay, let me plug in my mouse so I can actually scroll up in the chat. It's been half of my problem tonight. This computer, I have stuff plugged in like every USB outlet and it just gets overloaded. So let me see if I can find the question. What is the best way to inform someone in your own life that makes comments like Katie did? What kind of comment? I mean, Katie makes so many kind of comments. If it's in relation to the comment that we're talking about, I would just advise them to do some research. I mean, you can say it in a nicer way than that, but just be like, I think you may be misinformed, or I have recently read this and this that furthers a stigma. You know, just implore them to educate themselves a little bit. If you're talking about more serious things that she has said in the past in relation to, I didn't realize my eyeliner had transferred. I hope that's not been distracting to anybody. If it's been in relation to self-harm, trigger warning. If you don't know how to identify it, call a professional. Even if that means law enforcement. I know people kind of shy away from that. I will not. If you think somebody is on the verge of doing anything like that, call law enforcement. Have them go out and do an assessment. Law enforcement can do the assessment just like mobile response teams can. Is it advised to use law enforcement that way? No, because the authoritative figure of law enforcement oftentimes can be further triggering to some. But if it's the only resource you have, use it. Thank you, Crystal, for dropping the addiction hotline in. I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of it has to do specifically insensitive to people in recovery. I would suggest, it's okay, Crystal. I would suggest to find an article or something that really resonates with you and have the conversation with them. I mean, you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be direct about it, but have the conversation. It's going to make them uncomfortable. They're probably not going to be willing to really engage in the conversation. But if you have the conversation with them and you kind of break it down with them, whether they're just listening, and then you provide them either the paper or the link themselves to read through, they're likely to go back and read it. There is a lot of stigma around substance use, and unfortunately, unless they're willing to hear it and willing to go away from their original line of thinking, it can be hard to break away from people having an ignorant mindset. The cops saved Mary's life. They can in a lot of instances. I mean, I understand the controversy around people like trying to, what's the right term here? People trying to bring up the negative aspect of calling law enforcement to those kinds of calls. I get it, because it's an authority, and some people really don't like law enforcement. I'm not dumb to that. I don't agree with that kind of mindset. I will tell you right now, any first responder has my utmost respect, whether it's law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, EMS, military. I mean, any kind of position that's like in a first responding type scenario automatically has my undying like respect. And I get why people question them. Especially with stuff in the last couple of years that has been so publicized. Just like DCF workers, not every law enforcement officer is going to come with the same passion and with the same integrity. And that's with any position. It's unfortunate, but it's true. A person can call a rehab in the area and they will talk to them. Yeah, I think that depends on your area and what kind of resources you have. I know in previous areas I've lived in, and even the current area I live in, even if you call a rehab in this facility, they may do a follow-up phone call, but it's at the person's discretion. If they don't answer, they're not going to engage. And the facility has no reason to. Previously, where I lived in Florida, there were no rehabs to even have that conversation. Your only resource was a mobile response team, which, yes, they have to respond, but they're not going to respond as quickly as law enforcement might. So if you have information that someone is in imminent danger, whether that be at their own will or someone else, call law enforcement. Don't wait. Don't worry about being a snitch. I don't care if people don't like that I say that. It can be truth or death, for like life or death for somebody. Yeah, Dana brings up a good point. Even if you're not churchgoers, you can call a church. Yeah, church is typically any kind of religious sanctuary, really. Not just like, I don't want to just use the term church. Any place of worship, if you reach out to them, they're likely to help you. Some of them may judge you, but they're going to help you. That's a lot of what they do. They do a lot of community work, and I will tell you, more often than not, they're not going to judge you. I'm in Utah, which is a really especially where I'm at, it's kind of high with the Mormon religion, and I'm still learning about the Mormon religion. But like methadone and stuff like that here is, I meant to talk about this earlier, but it totally slipped my mind. Methadone is like a huge no-no here. A lot of things are like a huge no-no here. Believe it or not, alcohol, like just beer, was not full alcohol until like a year ago. It was watered down in the state of Utah. They don't take this stuff well. They don't like to talk about this stuff. They like to hide it. It's very rampant here, like it is everywhere else. But that's a hard conversation to have, especially in the position I was in, to have with some of these clients. And although my clients may have been adults, some of them have enabling parents, and having the conversation with all of them, that may be the best opportunity for clients. It's a very hard conversation to have. And just like it really, you have to come with just facts and education at that point, and information and statistics to help people and to break that stigma of people using MAT, which is medicated assisted treatment or therapy. All right, guys. Well, I have stayed and lingered a little bit longer than I had anticipated. I am going to go ahead and log out of here. But like I said, if you guys need anything, as always, even when I say my open discussions, feel free to reach out to me. I know Dana has offered for people to reach out to her as well. So if you're struggling in any way, or you just need somebody to talk to, please reach out to either one of us, both of us, whatever is best for you. But with all of that, I really do appreciate you guys being here and being supportive. It means a lot that you guys are so supportive. It's been a whirlwind of a week for me, and I'm still trying to recuperate from everything. I will not have anything go out tomorrow, except for if you are a member in the appropriate level tiers. I will have my members only live stream. It is going to be at 10 or whenever I said it was going to be scheduled tomorrow morning. I'm just going to leave it at that time. So I will see you guys at that one. Otherwise, Monday, there won't be a pre-recorded video, but we will have our open discussion, and then there will be videos hopefully for the rest of the week. So I hope that kind of catches everybody up. I'm not sure how to pronounce your full username, where you're just disclosing that your current living situation. I understand that it is hard if you're in that kind of situation to get help, especially if you're not struggling in more areas than one. If you're comfortable with reaching out to me and telling me your area, I can try and help find some resources for you. They are in your area. They're just probably harder to locate. I would suggest dialing *211 and just telling them of your current situation, and they should be able to direct you to shelters, or if you need any kind of assistance medically, there should be a doctor's free clinic or a volunteer doctor's clinic somewhere in your area. They're just not out on the street advertising it. You kind of have to get in touch with the resources to further get you in touch with the other resources. But they will, I would almost guarantee you have something, either if not in your area, in an area very close to you. But you are welcome to reach out to me if you need further direct resources. You can just tell me your general area and I will help you with that. But I am going to you're in Delaware. If you have, you're on, I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi, but you can use your phone to dial some Wi-Fi, *211, and they will be able to help you. Otherwise, Like I said, reach out to me in DMs. I will be willing to do some research and help you. I also don't want you to put out too much information in a live stream, so I don't want you to release any other information here. Feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, the general information I can say, dial star 211. That is a big area. I can almost promise you there are resources. They're just harder to find. So United Way should be able to direct you directly to somewhere that you can get the assistance with all of those things. But without further ado, I am going to end the stream here. And I will see some of you guys tomorrow morning, and the rest of you I will see Monday evening. Bye, guys.